Those conversations are always difficult. The families are usually, invariably actually, very traumatized.
Preying on children and spending very little time in jail. It may surprise you just how many sex offenders have been arrested once, twice, even 3 times before seeing serious time behind bars.
As Crime Tracker 10's Lacey Crisp explains tonight, there is an effort to charge those offenders federally.
It is the most terrifying experience to know that somebody is violating you and you can't move and you can't breathe.
A teacher in North Carolina, charged with 4 felony charges in sexual battery, only served 60 days in jail. Philip Kohlfeldt then moved to Ohio and did it again and tried to have sexual relations with a 13-year-old girl. He admitted to having sex with a 16-year-old. Only then he was sentenced to 120 months in federal prison.
Obviously, someone who has committed an offense against a child is more likely than someone who hasn't to commit another offense.
David Fairchild was already a registered sex offender because of offenses against a 5-year-old when he was accused of distributing child porn. Investigators found pictures and videos of him abusing a 22-month-old female relative.
We're immediately able to determine that the IP address, the residence where that IP address came back to, there was a registered sex offender living there.
Jeffrey Fisher was a high school janitor when he repeatedly sexually assaulted a 15-year-old he met online. He served 5 years and was out, only to reoffend.
At the time that he got back online and found 3 different victims from all over the country, including one here in the Columbus area. And he was threatening some of them. He was attempting to dominate some of them.
Franklin County Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy Rick Minard says it's disheartening for his investigators when an offender faces little or no jail time.
I mean, let's face it, law enforcement, it's hard not to become emotionally caught up in the case, especially with young people. When you see a child who's been exploited.
Which is why Heather Hill in the U.S. Attorney's Office is working to charge offenders federally so they face mandatory minimum sentences.
If I had to make a rough estimate, I would say a minimum of 25 up to probably 50% of my caseload are repeat offenders.
Hill prosecuted Fairchild federally. He's now serving 38 years for his sex offenses.
Someone who is committing an offense against a child obviously has a sexual interest in children, and that to me makes them a greater danger. And what we are about in this office is protecting and serving the community.
Sophia Fiffner was just a teen when she was raped. Her offender was never prosecuted.
So it's more prevalent than people think, and holding people accountable for this terrible behavior is there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made.
In Columbus, Lacey Crisp, 10 TV News.
Now, Hill argues one of the reasons many of these offenders see little jail time is that sex offenders start online and legislation can't keep up with the rapid advances in technology or tools offenders use to lure children online to get them to meet in person.